Tonight, we're diving into the constellation Gemini, and this one is special. It's where an ancient myth about brotherly love crashes right into this, frankly, mind-bending astronomical secret involving 6 stars pretending to be one. Let's get into it.
I mean, think about it. It's not just some poetic thought. It's the actual story behind 2 of the brightest stars you can see in the night sky. And that story, you guessed it, takes us all the way back to ancient Greece.
So the constellation is meant to be the twin brothers, Castor and Pollux. But here's the thing. They weren't your average twins. Their backstory is, let's just say it's complicated. And that complication? It's the engine that drives this entire epic story.
Okay, so this is where it gets wild. They had the same mom, Leda, but different dads. Pollux was the son of the god Zeus, which made him immortal. But Castor? His dad was a mortal king. So you have one immortal brother and one mortal one. And yet, despite that pretty huge difference, these 2 were attached at the hip, inseparable.
Naturally, being heroes, they had all sorts of adventures. But of course, tragedy had to strike. Castor, the mortal twin, was killed in a fight. And suddenly, Pollux, the immortal one, was facing something absolutely terrifying. Forever, but alone, without his brother.
And this is really the heart of the whole legend. Pollux's grief was so powerful that he actually begged his father, Zeus, to take away his immortality so he could die too and be with his brother. I mean, think about that. He was willing to give up eternal life, the one thing everyone wants, just to not be alone. That's some serious devotion.
So Zeus, seeing this incredible love, was moved. He offered a deal. Pollux could either live forever on Mount Olympus by himself, or he could split his time, sharing his immortality with Castor. They'd spend one day together in the underworld and the next on Olympus. Pollux didn't even have to think about it. He chose his brother. And it was that bond, that choice, that Zeus decided to honor by placing them in the sky forever.
Okay, that's an amazing story, but how do you actually find these guys in the sky? Let's switch gears from the myth to some practical stargazing.
All right, so if you're in the northern hemisphere, winter is your season. You're looking for 2 really bright stars that are pretty close to each other. That's them. That's Pollux and Castor, the heads of the twins. Pretty easy to spot once you know what you're looking for.
So, the legend calls them twins, but what does the science say? This is where the story gets really interesting, and we leave the myth behind for a bit of astrophysics.
Yeah, as it turns out, from a scientific point of view, they're not very twin-like at all. Pollux is this big orange giant star, while Castor is a brilliant blue-white. Not only that, but Pollux looks brighter to us, and it's actually closer. So they're a famous pair for sure, but they are definitely not identical twins.
Which brings up a really good question. Wait a minute. If Pollux is the brighter star, why is Castor called Alpha Geminorum? Alpha is supposed to go to the brightest one, right? So what's the deal here?
The answer, it turns out, goes back to this old naming system from the 1600s. An astronomer named Johann Bayer had a rule. If 2 stars were pretty close in brightness, he'd give the alpha title to whichever one was farther north. And Castor is just a tiny bit more to the north than Pollux. So it's a quirk of history. It's about location, not just brightness.
But hang on, because the biggest secret of all is hiding inside Castor. Okay, look up at it with just your eyes. You see one star, point a basic telescope at it. Whoa, it splits into 2. But then, scientists looked closer with even better tools, and you're not going to believe this. Each of those 2 stars is also a double star. And wait, there's more. Orbiting that whole system is another pair of stars. So that one little dot in the sky we call Castor, it's not one star, it's a 6-star system all dancing around each other. How wild is that?
And Gemini is so much more than just its 2 main stars. The whole constellation is just packed with other cool stuff to check out. For instance, it has something called a dwarf nova. Okay, picture this. You've got 2 stars orbiting each other really closely. One is a super dense white dwarf, and it's basically a cosmic vampire, sucking gas off its companion. That gas builds up and builds up until, kaboom, it erupts in this huge thermonuclear flash.
And the result is just stunning. There's a system in Gemini called U Geminorum. Most of the time it's super faint, way too dim to see. But every few months, when it has one of these outbursts, it gets about 100 times brighter just for a couple of days. It's like this little cosmic drama that plays out over and over again.
But that's not all. Gemini also has a gorgeous open star cluster called M35, a planetary nebula people call the Eskimo Nebula, and get this, one of its stars, 37 Geminorum, was where we aimed a radio message back in 2001, just in case any extraterrestrials were listening. No kidding.
So let's just pull back for a second and think about what Gemini really represents. It's been with us for so long, starting as this ancient story and evolving into a landmark for incredible discoveries.
I mean, even before the Greeks had their story, people in Mesopotamia were already looking up and seeing great twins. Later, the astronomer Ptolemy made it official in his star catalog. And then, much more recently, it just happened to be the part of the sky where we found two new planets, Uranus in 1781 and Pluto in 1930.
It's a pretty amazing journey, right? A piece of the sky that we first filled with a story about love and loyalty ended up being the exact place where we literally redrew the map of our own solar system.
So when we look up at the stars, what are we really seeing? Are we seeing the echoes of ancient stories, or are we looking at the stage for discoveries that haven't even happened yet? With Gemini, it's pretty clear the answer is yes, it's both. The stars hold our history and our future, connecting where we've been to everywhere we have yet to go.